And thank you so much. We want to bring in Seth Jones from the Center for Strategic and International Studies and Derrick Anderson, a former Green Beret who is trained with Israeli Defense Forces. I'm gobsmacked just listening to that sound. I want to get your reaction to what you just heard there, Derrick. But first, let me share a little sound from John Kirby. He talked about this idea that the threat to the homeland is very real. Sometimes people in America feel like it's an over-there problem. Not so, says John Kirby. Listen to this.
It makes perfect, prudent sense that we take the kind of action we have taken with local and state authorities to increase our intelligence posture, domestic intelligence posture, and to make sure that we're properly prepared to deter and disrupt any potential violent threat.
All bets are off. At this time in history, you can't take anything for granted.
No, and what's interesting what he says, he essentially alludes that it's over there, not happening over here. But you know what? Until that happens in your backyard, until those people are coming into your backyard and killing your wife, your daughter, your children, your husband, then it becomes real. And that's what the Israelis have been dealing with for decades. I think that's one of the interesting things. If you look at the propaganda that Hamas has been doing versus what has been pushed out by the Israelis are taking videos of them doing their missions. They're showing how precise they are when they're conducting their operations. They're going house to house right now. Some of their special operations have put some of their camera footage of them raiding some of these facilities. What does Hamas do? Hamas takes videos of women and children in the back of pickup trucks and in cages and puts that out. Now let's look at the two. And that's what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with Hamas, who is a terrorist organization. And that woman that spoke earlier on that clip is absolutely ridiculous to say that anyone deserves anything like that. No human being deserves that.
Boy, really tough to listen to. I want to welcome Seth Jones into the conversation. Seth, to ducktail of what DA was just saying here, I want to share just a bit from the National Review, if you'll indulge me. It said this in a headline: a day of rage reminder that the threat is never just over there. The ominous warnings on days like this are another indicator that as much as we may not want events in a faraway land to affect us, they do affect us. And the question is how we want to respond to a dangerous world. Seth, your thoughts?
Well, I think the threat is real in the U.S. homeland. I met with FBI agents earlier in the week from the Counterterrorism Division. They were seeing increasing indications in the U.S. of threats, including at synagogues. I think we're already seeing, as we've just heard, this increase in inflammatory action. We haven't even seen the Israelis start their ground invasion yet. It's going to be difficult. There will be civilian casualties. There will be videos and photographs taken that will be used, some for information, some for disinformation purposes, to try to stir up a range of these kinds of horrific attacks overseas. We've seen some of it in London and in France, and I think we certainly have to be vigilant in the United States as well.
I want to welcome Derrick back to the chat really quickly, and then I want to get your thoughts on this as well, Seth. Derrick, there's a headline tonight that effectively says that there's top-secret Hamas documents showing that terrorists intentionally target elementary schools and a youth center. You and I were talking in the break that this is not something that would surprise a specialist like yourself. Tell me why that is.
Yeah, so when I was in the Special Forces, I trained with the Israeli Defense Forces and their Special Operations Forces.
Yeah.
One of the things that really took me by surprise, and you can't understand it until you actually see it, was we were in the southern portion of Israel looking into Gaza. We had just gone through some of their tunnel techniques. And as we were looking over into Gaza, they brought out a map and they said, "Do you see what that is right there?" And I said, "No, what is that?" "That's a school. One was a UN building. They had painted UN on the side of it." And I said, "Well, what's the issue with them?" They said, "Most of those buildings are being used to build tunnels." That is where they're starting their tunnel systems at, because they know that the Israelis are going to take so much flack if they were to ever target that. But that's what Hamas does, right? Hamas takes school children, they take women, they take children, they use them as human shields. One of the things that truly does concern me about the Israelis right now is they're used to going into these tunnels and clearing them, or even just demolishing them, knowing that Hamas is in there. Now that we have reports that these hostages might be in there, that adds a completely different layer onto the dynamic of what they're dealing with. So,
excellent point. Seth, you want to wrap us up with your thoughts?
Yeah, there's no question Hamas, other militant groups, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, have used civilians as human shields. They will do that again in this conflict. And we'll also see them do things like they've smuggled weapons and fighters in ambulances and staged them at hospitals. So, I mean, they're trying to increase civilian casualties in this fight. So we have to be very vigilant in understanding what is Hamas disinformation coming. But this will be a tough fight.
Certainly appreciate your perspective, Seth Jones and Derrick Anderson. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Now to the debate on college campuses and the allegations that some presidents on